Welcome to Photoshop tutorial number 2. Today we are talking about photo editing, and we're going to go through just the basics to be able to improve any photo that you take. So follow right along. The first couple things we've already covered, just opening a new blank document. For this, you can use the standard letter 8.5 by 11. And we're just practicing right now, so honestly it doesn't matter unless you're ready to print something. Make sure you are always in that essential default so that your screen looks like my screen. If you play around with some of those options, like you see right here, and you decide that you like something different, like later on we'll be working with painting, you might want to switch it to the painting mode. You're welcome to do that, but just for the sake of this tutorial, to make sure that we are all aligned, make sure you're on that essentials. All right, and then we're ready to add our image. You have a couple different options, and so you can click on this hyperlink and do the class digital photography and download an image and just copy and paste it in. Or I'm going to go ahead and pop into Photoshop, and I'm going to show you how I always place embedded. So here I am. I already created my new document, my blank document, and I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded. And then I already have it pulled up to my digital photo portfolio, but I think I'm going to be working with this image right here. This is my dog Delilah, and I like this image, but it's really dark and it could use some cropping, so let's edit this one. Click on it, click place, and it should place it right there. And right away I can see my image is pretty good size for the 8.5 by 11, so that's great. If I'm good with it, then I'll just push enter, or I can press this little check mark up here. I do want to make it a little bit larger. So if I want to go back in there and I want to resize an image at any point, I could have just done it before I press enter, but you might not always have that option, or you might not know you want to resize it. So whenever you're ready to resize, you're doing what's called free transform. And to do that, you can either go to edit, free transform, or as you can see here, the shortcut is Control-T. So this is a big shortcut that I use all the time, Control-T. And then if I hold down the Shift key while I move it, notice it doesn't change the proportions at all. So I don't accidentally get like a little skinny girl. So if I don't hold down Shift and I move it, I can adjust those proportions. But I don't like that, so I'm going to Control-Z to undo. And I'm going to hold down Shift so that I can make it so that she fills up this space. Okay, and once I'm done, I can either click that check or I can click enter, and I'm good to go. Next thing I want to show you is how to crop or straighten. So to do this, I'm going to use my crop tool, which is right here. I can either click on that, or as you can see, crop tool is just C to be able to use that. Once I'm in there, it gives me these little bars along the corner, so I can go in and I can edit down and I can crop it in so that I don't want to see that little toy that's hanging out on the floor back there. So I'm just going to crop that out a little bit. I think she's already pretty good though, because she's already filling up most of that space, so I don't think I need to crop much else. The other thing I can do is while I'm in crop, notice if I'm not hovering over my image and I'm more like off of the image, it gives me this fun little curve with 2 arrows. And I can take that and I can use that to be able to rotate. So I can rotate her however I need to. If I wanted her to be really straight, I could make her sit straight up. If I want to make it like a little fun and like switch it up, I could. She's pretty good, so I don't think I'm going to really rotate too much. But that is how you would rotate your image if you needed to do that. Once you're done, you can click enter, and it should crop that and rotate it so you are good to go. Okay, Once you're done with that, the next thing I want to show you is how to remove small objects or mainly small blemishes. Now this works really well if you have a photo of like a portrait where someone might have some blemishes on their face. This is going to come in like really good handy. It also works if you have like a little fuzz or like a little hair or anything little that you want to get rid of. This does a really good job. So Delilah, she's just perfect the way she is. At least that's what I think, because she's my dog. And she doesn't have any obvious blemishes, but I still want to show you how this works. So I'm going to use it just on the carpet right over here. What I'm using is called the Spot Healing Brush, and notice the shortcut is J. So I'm going to click on that. Looks like a little Band-Aid. And then it won't let me click on her right now because currently this is a smart object and it needs to be rasterized. So I'm going to go ahead. No big deal, but basically it just means it needs to be turned into pixels. So I'm going to click OK. And now I should be able to go ahead and work it. The problem is it's really small. I can't actually even see my brush right now. It's here, but if I zoom in, it's pretty small, and I'm not dealing with any kind of small blemishes. So I can come up here to my options bar, and I can make it larger. I can also adjust the hardness. So right here for the hardness, if I want it to be like an obvious circle that I am altering, then I would keep the hardness at 100%. But I want to just kind of blend kind of this pattern into the carpet. And usually with blemishes, you want it to blend. You don't want like a circle patch on you. And so I'm going to pull that hardness down to make the edges softer. Then if I zoom out, so I'm good on that. I should be able to just click and drag, and it's going to get rid of any small thing in that area that doesn't look like the rest. So in this case, it's getting rid of like the little pattern in the carpet. Now, one thing, like I said, this only works on small stuff. So if I wanted to get rid of like this entire part of my lamp and I tried to click over it, it doesn't have enough information. You can see it's trying right there, but it's not going to work. So instead, there's other ways to get rid of that, but for the purpose of photo editing, I'm just going to use it on like little blemishes or little things I might want to get rid of. And I can just click and drag areas at a time. Oops, and sometimes it doesn't work because what it's doing is it's grabbing from around it and trying to kind of blend it together, which is why it works so well on like a face, because it can just look around that area to clean it up. But usually I wouldn't do this on the carpet, but I just want you to be able to see what that looks like. Okay, hopefully you get the idea of why and how to use that. Works great on a portrait. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you is where there's a bunch of different options to adjust the settings. So this is probably the main thing. When you are in your image, if you go to Image Adjustments, there are a ton of different options to play with. Brightness Contrast is the main one. Hue Saturation will adjust the coloring. White and black, or black and white. You can probably guess what that does. Photo filter can also add like a black and white filter or a sepia filter, or like make something monochromatic where it's all different shades of red or blue. Posterize is pretty fun. It will simplify your image into less pixels. So I will show you what just some of these things are. And then shadows and highlights works really well if you have one specific area that is more shadowy or more highlight and you want to balance it overall. So let me just walk you through some of those basic ones. We have brightness contrast. And every time you click on that, it's going to give you it's going to give you like this little table. and usually some sliders to be able to adjust and play with. So she's pretty dark, so I'm gonna go ahead and brighten her up. I'm gonna play with that contrast, and I'm actually gonna lower the contrast just a little bit so I can see a little bit more of her. That looks pretty good. Once you're done, click OK. Make sure you always have that preview spot clicked as well so that you can see what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just guessing, and that can be tricky. Back to image adjustments. I want to show you what hue saturation does. So once again, I'm on the preview. And now I can play with it. The hue will change like the color it is, which is kind of fun. Saturation is going to make something really vibrant. So you can tell it can go really vibrant or all the way to black and white. If you play with both of these, so if you're just trying to make it like a different fun color, you could play hue and then saturate, kind of for some pop arty effects. But I think I'm going to saturate just a little bit to make her a little warmer. And then lightness, you can probably figure out it's just like dark and light. So if you put that up too much, it's going to wash it out. Most of the time, I don't mess with that one. Instead, what I mess with, and I'll click OK, image adjustments, I mess with the shadows and highlights, okay? So this is going to tackle specifically your shadows and highlights, not just like the brightness and contrast overall. So if you think you need some more shadows, we can drop those down, or highlights. And so play with these a little bit to try and make it so that it seems like your image is too balanced. Like if I go too far, I can see it's washing it out. I need shadows and highlights to make it look three-dimensional and realistic, but I want to get that balance. She actually looks pretty good. The other thing I want to show you is image adjustments, and then we have posterize, which is pretty fun. So posterize, it'll give you this level, and the lower the level, the less pixels it'll give you, so the less amount of colors. So basically it's going to condense areas that might be realistic into more of like shapes of those colors. So if this whole area, instead of having 50 different shades of this brown, they're all really similar, it's just going to make it all that one brown that's kind of in the middle of those 50 shades. So the higher the level, you don't even see the posterize anymore because you're saying, yeah, you can have lots of colors, but the less colors, so the lower the level, and usually when I posterize, I work anywhere from like a 5 to like a 12. But lower the level, the more that you see it's actually posterized. So I don't actually want to do that for this one. I use that a lot whenever I'm going to paint or draw something because it basically simplifies the image for me into different shapes. But for this, I'm just trying to photo edit, so I don't need to do that. Feel free to go in here. Image adjustments is where you can really play with a lot of different things. So I'm not even showing you all of them, but this is where your main photo editing options are. So have fun with that. When you are done, make sure you're always saving it. And so we walk through this stuff. You're always saving it as both a Photoshop image and a JPEG so that you can go back and edit it as a Photoshop image, but then you can also save it and turn it in as your JPEG. When you are all done, yay, you are ready for your photo editing assignment. So this is what that assignment is. It looks like this. It's in Schoology. You should be able to just pull it up. And this is what I just did. So you're going to copy and paste your before image. And then you're going to copy and paste an after image in here. Make sure these are images you've taken. Probably they're going to be images from your class photography, digital photography portfolio, but if you want to use other photos that you've taken as well to play in Photoshop, you can do that as long as they're your photos. And you're going to do this for 3 images. So it'll look like this. You'll paste Copy and paste each of these, 1, 2, 3, and make sure you're really playing with some of the things I just showed you, some of those adjustments, because then you're going to explain at the bottom. You'll just type in here what you did to edit it, so what you did to change it from the before to the after. When you're all done, submit it, and let me know if you have any questions.